Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for an exploration that really fundamentally challenges one of the most sort of ingrained concepts in human existence.
Mm.
This idea, this necessity of leaving a lasting mark.
Mm.
We're diving deep into the powerful and, let's be honest, often painful truth of impermanence. And we're asking whether this whole pursuit of legacy, this thing we're all told to chase, is maybe just a societal illusion built on a fear of being forgotten.
It really is a radical premise, isn't it? We're basically confronting the idea that the human fixation on forever, the dream of being remembered centuries from now, might actually be the single biggest obstacle to living a joyful, meaningful life right now.
Exactly.
And the conclusion that seems to emerge when you really look at it is that accepting this bitter truth that everything eventually fades, it's not actually a cause for despair. It might be the absolute key to unlocking the richness of the present moment.
I find this just absolutely fascinating because, I mean, look around. Our lives are so often structured around delayed gratification, around future validation.
No kidding.
So we're setting the stage today to really dissect this massive chasm, this gap between what the world constantly tells us matters, fame, future success, maybe a foundation with your name on it or a statue somewhere, and what actually constitutes a meaningful existence.
Mm.
And if we follow this line of thought, that meaningful existence, it seems to be entirely, maybe exclusively, contained within the moment we are currently occupying right now.
It's a necessary shift in perspective, I think. Because if we can truly internalize this idea, this reality that the world just keeps spinning regardless of whether anyone remembers our name in 100 years, well, that gives us a tremendous amount of freedom, doesn't it?
Freedom, yeah. Intellectually, emotionally.
Right. Today, we get to shed this incredible, often unspoken weight of needing to be someone great for posterity, for people who don't even exist yet.
Okay, let's talk about that weight then.
Yeah.
Section 1. The weight of legacy, a societal illusion. Where does this pressure even come from?
Well, it's heavy, isn't it?
It's palpable. And you think about the messaging we get, I mean, right from childhood, there's this pervasive, almost like a spiritual mandate to leave your mark. It's everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It basically defines purpose for so many people, from, early schooling right through your corporate life, society, the media, often our own families. The expectation hammers home this idea that our primary function here isn't just to live and experience life, but to do something significant enough that it somehow manages to defy time.
Yeah, to beat the clock.
Exactly. We're constantly directed toward external achievement because the whole narrative suggests that happiness, that fulfillment, well, those are like endpoints.
Yeah.
They're reserved only for those who successfully carve their name into history somehow.
And we fall into what I sometimes think of as the Hall of Fame trap.
Hmm.
We're endlessly presented with these success stories, the great leaders, the revolutionary inventors, the cultural giants.
The icons.
The icons, yeah. And we're told, maybe not always explicitly, but it's implied, use them as the benchmark for a life well lived. We hold up these colossal figures like Quaid Assam or Abraham Lincoln, or maybe more recently someone like Steve Jobs. Their achievements are monumental.
Undeniably.
And we study them precisely because we still talk about them.
Mhm.
And that creates this faulty equation in our heads. Prominence equals purpose. If you're remembered, you must have mattered.
And this is where the crucial, maybe brutal reality check has to happen. Yes, of course, we admire these historical figures, their impact, whether on politics, culture, technology. It's undeniably still being felt by us today, no question.
Right.
But we must acknowledge the critical point. They're gone. Their impact is now entirely historical data. It's information. They are only remembered when their names are actively pulled from the archives, in a history book or a discussion like this one, or maybe a commencement speech.
So the memory is active, not inherent.
Precisely. The world itself, it just keeps spinning. It's completely indifferent, really, to their past impact. That historical importance, it's tremendously valuable to us, the living, who are still navigating the present, but it is utterly, completely irrelevant to them.
Wow. Okay. That is a fundamental challenge to how we even define achievement, isn't it? When I really sit with that point, I have to ask, doesn't the whole pursuit of legacy then become this massive, maybe self-defeating distraction?
I think it can be, yeah.
We chase legacy as if it's some kind of reward we'll get to feel or receive in the future. But the
Yeah.
philosophical analysis here seems pretty clear. Legacy is entirely for the living, not for the deceased.
Exactly. We need to really dissect the nature of that footprint itself. Look, the act of leaving a legacy, creating a great work of art, starting a generous foundation, inspiring a movement that can certainly be noble
No,
and deeply useful for the generations that follow. Absolutely.
sure, to benefit society.
But philosophically speaking, it is not an experience that benefits the person who left it. It is entirely 100% a cultural mechanism for the ones who remain. It's a story we continue to tell ourselves, maybe to make sense of the past or inspire the future.
This hits on that slightly unsettling idea of the silence of praise.
Mhm.
If we define life by internal experience, by consciousness, feeling,
Mm-hmm.
the minute someone passes away, they cease to experience anything. They don't feel joy, they don't feel pain, and they certainly don't register the sensation of fame or adoration or being remembered.
Right, exactly right. Legacy becomes, well, it's like a shadow. It's a narrative construct that exists outside the person. When we say a musician lives on through their music, what we really mean is that their music continues to affect our emotions and our lives.
We feel it, they don't.
It offers precisely zero emotional or conscious benefit to the musician who is no longer there to hear it or feel its impact.
I think we really need to hold on to that distinction because it's just so stark. Imagine the sheer scale of modern global praise. Tens of thousands, maybe millions of people today praise some great historical leader. They write books, erect monuments, analyze every word.
A whole industry of remembrance.
Right. But what fundamental difference does this torrent of adoration actually make to that leader's, well, to their bones resting in the ground? To the person who left that massive legacy, the entire world and all its words, all its praise are utterly silent now. That silence, that's the ultimate undeniable proof of impermanence, isn't it?
It is the ultimate truth, I think, and it's one we very conveniently choose to ignore while we're alive. We imbue legacy with such potent vitality, such significance, because we are still here. We're still in the realm of
We
experience.
project our feelings onto it.
We imagine what it must feel like to be remembered like that. But the moment that individual passes, their capacity to experience anything, let alone praise, just evaporates. It means we are potentially devoting our entire active existence, our precious now, to building this magnificent structure,
Yeah.
designed purely for the admiration of future generations, an admiration that the architect, the person who built it, will never, ever get to witness or feel.
And this ancient drive, this, primal need for remembrance, it just crashes headlong into the modern era, doesn't it? Because that deep-seated human desire for a lasting legacy, it feels like it's been turbocharged. It's mutated into this ferocious modern race for instantaneous validation.
It absolutely has. Modern life, accelerated by technology, didn't just inherit the idea of legacy, it turned it into a kind of competitive sport. The slow, maybe generational pursuit of historical impact has become this feverish competition for followers, for views, for instant fame, and often the wealth that comes with it.
It's immediate.
It's immediate. It's no longer really about building a monument that lasts 200 years. It's often about becoming a trending topic for, 24 hours? Maybe a week if you're lucky.
And social media just pours gasoline on that fire.
Right.
It acts as the accelerant. The hunger for validation has never felt stronger or more visible. And I personally believe this whole mechanism forces people, maybe unconsciously, to prioritize this fleeting external attention over genuine internal peace.
That's a key distinction.
We're constantly performing, aren't we? For this audience of strangers, somehow convinced that the metric, the number of followers or likes, somehow measures our life's actual value.
And what's deeply concerning about that, I think, is the sheer fragility of that modern fame. Unlike, say, a Roman statue or a published novel that might physically last, contemporary digital prominence is built on these incredibly transient algorithms.
It's changing all the time.
And the attention spans of strangers,
Yeah.
which, let's face it, often last mere seconds. I sometimes look at it as a phenomenon similar to fire. It's intensely bright, it's mesmerizing for a moment, but poof, it's gone instantly. And it leaves behind no real warmth, no lasting structure.
We see examples of this literally every single day. Think about some viral personality, someone who completely dominated the online conversation just, say, 3 months ago.
Yeah, where are they now?
Exactly. Often, completely forgotten, already replaced by the next trend, the next fleeting sensation. Or think about a famous actor whose face is everywhere one year and then quickly supplanted by the new younger star of the moment.
The churn is relentless.
That kind of fame, it provides this brilliant attention-grabbing flash, absolutely. But it seems to lack any lasting heat or sustenance for the person who chased it so hard. And my personal observation here, just watching this play out, is that this acceleration, this digital amplification of the need for continuous validation, it seems to have made a lot of people profoundly unhappy. Why? Because the goalpost for making your mark just keeps resetting every single day, sometimes every hour. It almost guarantees perpetual dissatisfaction, doesn't it?
It really does. The digital noise is so effective at convincing us that our mark must be public, it must be quantifiable, and it absolutely must be instantaneous. But as we were just discussing, true, lasting human impact, the kind that genuinely changes someone's life in a meaningful way that often happens quietly, unseen.
Without the fanfare.
Precisely. And this desperation to be known, to be seen, it often overrides the far more important, I would argue, internal work of just being present, being content, and feeling truly alive in your own skin.
Okay, so if that illusion of legacy is what drives so much of our behavior, then we absolutely have to confront Section 2. The universal law of forgetting. This is the necessary, maybe sobering reality check about why the world simply doesn't pause for anyone.
Yeah, this is the hard, almost mathematical truth we need to face, I think. Every single day, thousands upon thousands of people across the globe die. Rich, poor, famous, completely unknown, young, old, it doesn't matter.
The great equalizer.
It is. And yet, the world just maintains its rhythm. The sun rises, the traffic snarls, the markets open, babies are born. Life just moves forward. It doesn't wait for a single individual, and it seems completely indifferent to individual tragedy or even the greatest human achievement once it's passed.
That swift return to normality.
Yeah.
It is perhaps the most humbling aspect of existence, isn't it? We participate in the grieving process, sure. We attend funerals, we post our condolences online, we observe the societal rituals.
We do the things.
We do the things. But almost immediately, we swiftly, necessarily return to our daily routines. We're back to scrolling on our phones, we're eating lunch, we're worrying about deadlines. That immediate, almost self-preserving pivot back to our lives proves that the system, the global organism, it's fundamentally self-sufficient. It doesn't rely on any one part.
And, you know, that indifference, it isn't really a sign of cruelty. It's just the natural function of time and continuity. It has to be that way for life to continue. And we're talking here about the inevitable fading of even perceived greatness, even the handful of names we currently consider immortal.
The household names.
They too will eventually fade as new generations inevitably replace old memories with new concerns, new heroes, new stories. The mistake we often make is focusing so intensely on the one or two names from history that somehow did survive that we completely forget the literal millions, billions even, who didn't.
Let's really try to engage with that scale of mass vanishing for a second, because this is the concept that, if you let it, should truly shock you out of complacency about your own legacy. We can use what we're calling the 200-year test.
Yes, let's run that test right now. Just think about the world, say, 200 years ago, around 1825, give or take. At that time, there were incredibly powerful figures walking the earth.
Kings, emperors.
Yeah, absolutely. Once celebrated poets whose work was maybe taught in every school. Once powerful kings or local governors who literally controlled the lives of millions. Wealthy industrialists who perhaps owned entire cities. Groundbreaking inventors who genuinely changed the technology of their specific era.
Okay, got him in line.
No. Fast forward to today. Unless you happen to be a highly specialized academic historian focusing on that exact period.
Which most of us are.
Right. You might, maybe, be able to name one or two of the truly global figures from that time, a president, maybe a famous composer. But the millions upon millions of other individuals who existed back then, the local heroes, the successful business owners in their towns, the deeply loved grandmothers, the respected community leaders.
All the people who made up the fabric of society.
Exactly. They loved fiercely, they dreamed ambitiously, they built lives. And they have all, virtually, without exception, vanished into historical dust. Their personal stories are completely silent now, their names forgotten outside perhaps a crumbling tombstone in some distant, overgrown cemetery, if that.
That is the reality check against this myth of being remembered forever. We cling so desperately to this idea that our lives must somehow achieve historical significance, leave some permanent mark.
Yeah, it feels like a requirement.
But the reality of fading, of being forgotten, that's just the natural, inevitable order of things. Everything fades, everything changes. Nations rise and fall, languages die out, mountains erode over millennia, even the stars themselves eventually burn out. Why on earth would the story of a single human being be exempt from that universal law?
It's a profound question.
And if we accept that universal law, that everything fades, we then have to talk about memory's mortality. It's almost a terrifying thought, but our memories of others, they're finite too. They don't last forever either.
Absolutely. Memories themselves are mortal because they literally die with the people who hold them. You know, when I look at old photographs of relatives I never met, I can piece together a narrative, I can look at the evidence, but the true, deep memory,
The feeling of them.
the sound of their voice, the way they laughed, the feel of their hand, that ceases to exist entirely when the last person who experienced it directly passes away. A person's story lasts only as long as someone is alive to tell it, and after that, silence returns.
So even when we offer that comfort, he will be remembered forever, or she lives on in our hearts.
It's a kind sentiment, but
The potent, maybe liberating truth is this. Forever doesn't exist. Not for names, not for nations, not even for stars in the long run.
it's important to stress, though, as you said, this analysis isn't designed to be depressing or nihilistic. Not at all. It's simply stating an observational fact about time and scale and how memory works. Understanding this, let's call it, brutal universal law of forgetting is actually the essential prerequisite for what comes next, which is, I think, intensely optimistic.
Okay, good. Because if we accept that these external structures, fame, remembrance, legacy, are inherently temporary, we arrive at this great philosophical conundrum in Section 3, the paradox of purpose and the present.
That's right. Because we spend so much of our energy, so much of our lives trying to justify our existence to a future world that, as we've just established, will likely never notice us anyway.
Will have forgotten us.
Exactly. And in doing so, we completely bypass the only thing we actually genuinely possess.
Which is this moment.
Yeah.
This is what I think of as the futility trap. We invest our entire existence chasing these external markers, titles, wealth, reputation, convinced that when we acquire them, then we will unlock meaning. Then we'll be happy.
The if-then model of happiness.
Precisely. But in that relentless pursuit, we fundamentally forget that the only thing we truly have is this very moment. We're constantly pouring our resources, our time, our energy, our focus into a future that, by its very definition, is never guaranteed. And often, even if that future finally arrives, it brings with it this stunning lack of the fulfillment we sacrificed everything for.
Which suggests we really need to redefine purpose, doesn't it? It perhaps must be viewed more as an experience, an ongoing state of being, rather than a destination you arrive at or a final marker you achieve.
An experience, not an achievement.
Yeah. Too many people commit their entire lives, their entire working lives certainly, to the singular goal of achieving some arbitrary future target, to made it big, whatever that means, or to retire with a specific amount of wealth, or to achieve that coveted title by the time they finally get there, if they get there.
Right, big if.
Or maybe they just realize the sheer futility of that all-consuming pursuit their entire active life, the part where they could have felt things, has simply passed them by in this rush of anxiety and striving.
Let's delve really deeply into this price of delaying life, because this is where I think the listener can potentially make immediate practical changes in their own perspective. Let's use that specific example we talked about, the 40-year builder.
Okay, let's picture this individual. They dedicate 40 years, maybe from their 20s right through until their 60s, pouring every ounce of their emotional, physical, and mental energy into building a massive, successful company.
All in.
Completely all in. Every minute, every thought, every single deferred vacation, every missed family dinner. It's all rationalized by this overarching idea that they are building something vital for the future, for their family security, maybe for their own legacy, definitely for their retirement down the road.
Okay, the picture is clear. Now let's detail what was actually missed while that person was focusing exclusively, tunnel vision style, on this future edifice they were constructing. They missed the richness of truly living the present moments that made up those 40 years. Maybe they never really watched a sunset, just watched it, because they were always trapped in a late-night meeting or compulsively checking email.
It's always on the culture.
Exactly. Maybe they never laughed freely, that deep belly laugh without reserve, because the burden of the company, the stress, the responsibility, the constant worry was just too heavy to ever fully set down, even for a moment.
Always carrying it.
And they certainly almost by definition, never felt genuine, quiet, unearned peace. They probably mistook relentless striving, the adrenaline of the chase, for meaningful living.
And this is the profound cost, isn't it? It's the opportunity cost. They effectively traded 40 decades of potential lived experience of present moment richness for an abstract future promise.
A promise that might not even deliver.
Right. And when death finally arrives, as it does for everyone, that huge future they built, the empire, the reputation, the title on the door, none of it will matter to them in that final moment of clarity. The only thing that matters then, it seems, are the accumulated feelings of life itself.
The internal landscape.
Precisely. The intense focus on external future success prevented them from recognizing that the one thing that actually gives life its intrinsic value is the simple feeling of being alive, moment by moment.
You know, I personally find that we, as a society, often confuse chronic stress with profound importance. We equate being perpetually busy, running on fumes, suffering through work we dislike. We equate that with having a meaningful existence. Look how hard I'm working. I must be doing something important.
The badge of honor.
It is. But this analysis forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that the most important parts of our lives, maybe our health, our relationships, our inner peace, are often the very things sacrificed on the altar of the least important metric, an external title or a bank balance that vanishes the second we do. So this really forces every listener, myself included, to look hard at their time allocation right now. If, say, 90% of your waking energy is spent grinding away on something you fundamentally not take with you when you go, you have to ask, why? What is the real payoff?
And if that future success, that external validation, is ultimately irrelevant at the moment of reckoning, well, then we absolutely must redefine what success looks like today. And the smartest, most liberated answer that emerges seems to be shifting our focus entirely to living for now, not driven by the fear of being forgotten later.
That's the crucial motive shift, isn't it? The smartest way to live, perhaps the only truly sane way, is by structuring our lives around the feeling being alive today. It changes the entire moral and emotional compass behind our daily actions. Why are we doing what we're doing?
And let's be crystal clear here. This doesn't mean becoming, a hedonistic slacker or abandoning all responsibility. Not at all. We can still work hard. We can still create things. We absolutely should still strive to help others. That's part of being human.
Of course.
But the motive, the why behind it, fundamentally changes. It should be done because the activity itself feels right now, because it aligns with our present values, because it brings us some form of current fulfillment or connection, not out of some desperate fear of future relevance or this compulsive need to build an external monument that realistically nobody will be looking at in 200 years.
So true peace gets redefined too. It's no longer about achieving that external acclaim, that lasting fame, or being remembered fondly by future generations you'll never meet. True peace, the truly successful state according to this view, is simply being content, engaged, alive in the present moment. When you laugh spontaneously with a friend and you're fully there in that laugh, when you watch the rainfall and just feel gratitude for having shelter, or when you quietly and humbly help a stranger without needing or expecting thanks, that is life's real, tangible success. That's the internal legacy we carry with us moment by moment.
And if we can successfully internalize that premise, that legacy is fleeting, fame is fragile, and the present is primary, we arrive at this potentially immensely positive conclusion in Section 4, the incredible freedom of letting go. This is the profound, truly liberating shift in perspective.
The beauty being temporary. Yeah, this realization, if you really embrace it, is so profound because it flips the entire narrative completely on its head. If nothing lasts forever, we shouldn't view this as some cause for cynical mourning or nihilistic despair.
Quite the opposite.
Instead, it could, maybe should be embraced as something fundamentally beautiful and vital, something that gives life its edge.
What's really fascinating here is the philosophical connection that emerges between impermanence and actual value. Think about it. If life or time or any given moment were literally eternal, would we ever truly value them?
Probably not. We take them for granted.
Exactly. If laughter lasted forever, we wouldn't seek it out with such joy. If love was just unendingly guaranteed, always there, would we cherish it so deeply? It seems to be the finite, scarce nature of time, of experience, that gives the present moment its incredible, almost urgent value.
Scarcity genuinely creates value. We see this everywhere, and we can demonstrate this principle using really simple sensory examples from everyday life. Think about that perfect cup of coffee you might have had this morning.
Yes.
It was maybe magnificent, warming, just right. Precisely because it didn't last forever.
Right.
If you knew you had an infinite, endless supply of that exact perfect cup always available, would you savor that particular moment, that specific taste, the warmth in your hands, the way you did?
No, you defer it. You'd think, I'll enjoy the next one.
You defer the enjoyment. Exactly. It loses its specialness.
And this translates directly and perhaps more profoundly to our deepest human relationships. We hug someone we love, maybe a little tighter. We make the effort to tell our loved ones that we love them, perhaps fiercely, because the awareness, whether it's conscious or subconscious, exists that one day we simply won't be able to.
That knowledge is always there, under the surface.
It is, and this transience, this temporary nature of everything we hold dear, is precisely what makes the present moment feel real, feel urgent, and feel utterly priceless. It forces us or invites us to engage fully now.
Okay, so we've followed this path, haven't we? From understanding the societal pressure for legacy to confronting the universal law of forgetting and now arriving at this acceptance of impermanence. So we must finally take that final inventory. When all is said and done, what truly matters at the end of this journey we call life?
And the answer that comes through consistently and almost unwavering across different ways of looking at this is legacy fades, fame dies, riches disappear or become irrelevant. The only currency that seems to remain, the only thing that has lasting value within us, is the internal one, the collection of moments we actually live.
The lived experience itself.
Those internal experiences, the feelings of connection, the moments of genuine gratitude, the shared laughter, the taste of freedom, the awe at beauty, those are the only things we truly carry within us until the very end. They constitute the U.S. that is experiencing the end.
This feels like the most crucial reflection point for all of us listening. When someone is lying on their deathbed, assuming they have that moment of reflection, nobody, it seems, is focused on how many strangers will remember their name 50 years from now, or what the final valuation of their company was.
The metrics fall away.
They do. The focus shifts entirely inward. The questions become intensely personal. Did I feel love? Did I pursue what felt like freedom to me? Did I take the time to witness the sheer, stunning beauty of existence around me? How did I, myself, actually feel about the life I lived?
And this is perfectly, almost poetically summarized by that generalized wisdom you hear, the wise elders regret. Across so many cultures, reflective old people, when they look back, they never seem to express regret by saying, oh, I wish I had amassed more Twitter followers, or I really wish I'd worked just one more all-nighter to secure that big client.
Never hear that.
You never hear that. The regret is almost universally framed as, I wish I had lived more. They wish they had been more present in the moments they had. They wish they'd chased peace, perhaps, over reputation, that they'd savored the mundane, magnificent, everyday moments of their lives more fully.
That really encapsulates the central argument of this entire deep dive, doesn't it? The life you actually lived and experienced, the internal tapestry of moments and feelings, that is the only thing that truly cannot be taken away from you. It is you. So we arrive at the final liberation. This feels like the core message we really want to imbue in you, the listener, today. Stop chasing the illusion of forever. It's okay. The world forgets everyone, the great, the small, the famous, the unknown. And that fact is fundamentally, profoundly okay. It's not a failure. It's just the nature of reality.
And that profound acceptance, if you can truly reach it, grants you the secret freedom that most people, sadly, never discover. Since nothing you build externally truly lasts forever in the way we imagine, then nothing truly binds you to some impossible, crushing expectation.
The pressure lifts.
It does. You are suddenly free to live, to laugh, to breathe, to make mistakes, to love, without this enormous suffocating pressure to impress future generations you'll never know, or to build some everlasting monument to your own ego.
The ultimate legacy, therefore, isn't external at all, is it? The instruction, the takeaway we draw from this deep analysis is incredibly simple yet transformative. Don't try so hard to be remembered. Try instead with all your energy to be alive right now. That is the only legacy that truly exists. The life you actually lived, the moments you actually felt, the experiences that accumulated into your unique existence.
So we've taken this quite extraordinary journey together today, haven't we? Moving from what feels like the necessary, if bitter, truth of universal forgetting, all the way to the profound, potentially transformative beauty of present moment value.
It's such a powerful realization because it just reprioritizes absolutely everything in your life, potentially. And the quotes that perfectly summarize this transformation are just, well, perfect. Nothing lasts forever, but that's what makes everything worth it. And legacy fades, moments don't.
If you can truly internalize that, just let it sink in,
Yeah.
you might stop performing life for some imaginary future audience and actually start experiencing it for yourself right here, right now.
So here is our provocative final thought for you, the listener, to carry forward from this deep dive today.
Hmm.
Think about one specific thing, just one thing that you are currently doing. Maybe it's a major project, maybe a huge sacrifice you're making, maybe a demanding commitment. Something you are justifying, perhaps entirely, as being for the future.
Something you're delaying enjoyment of.
Exactly. Can you, just for a moment, step back from that activity right now and try to reframe it? Can you find a way to engage with it differently today? To make it somehow a source of present experience? Maybe even find some gratitude within the process itself, rather than viewing it only as a means to some delayed destination. A destination that, as we've discussed, may never actually deliver the peace or fulfillment you seek?
Mm-hmm.
Think about how that fundamental shift from future performance to present presence could potentially change your entire perspective on purpose, maybe starting right now, this afternoon.
Embrace the now. That's all there is.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.